You ever hear of a ghost in the machine? You know, that feeling that something's still there, kind of working in the shadows, even though it's supposed to be long gone. Well, in the software world, there's a very real ghost. Its name is AngularJS. And even though it officially reached its end of life years ago, it's still haunting thousands of applications we all rely on. So let's dive in and do a proper postmortem.
Okay, let's set the scene. December 31st, 2021. That was the day Google officially pulled the plug on AngularJS. That meant no more updates, no more security patches, zero support for what was one of the most popular web frameworks of its time. For all intents and purposes, it was done, retired. And that, right there, leads us to the central mystery of this whole thing. If it's unsupported, if it's not being patched, if it's officially a relic, then why is it still everywhere? Why are so many companies, maybe even ones you interact with every single day, still relying on this digital ghost? Well, that's the big question we're here to unpack. To really get why this framework is so hard to let go of, we have to go back in time. We have to understand why it was such a revolution to begin with. See, AngularJS didn't just get popular, it completely changed the way people built for the web.
The secret sauce? The absolute game changer? It was this thing called two-way data binding. Now just imagine your app's data and what the user sees on the screen are, well, they're magically linked. When the data changes, boom, the screen updates instantly. When a user types something, boom, the data updates right along with it. All automatic. No extra code. It was incredible.
And this really shows you the leap forward. Before AngularJS, developers had to write tons and tons of tedious code just to keep the data and the user's view in sync. It was a chore, and it was so easy to make mistakes. AngularJS just wiped all of that manual work off the table, letting developers actually focus on building the app itself. This was all possible because of things called directives. Think of them as special superpowers you could add right into your HTML. You could tell your code, hey, repeat this thing for every item in a list using ngRepeat, or only show this if a certain condition is true with ngF. Basically, AngularJS taught plain old HTML a whole bunch of new tricks. It made it powerful and dynamic. But you know how it is. The tech world moves incredibly fast. The very things that made AngularJS a superstar in the early 2010s were eventually replaced by newer ideas. The team at Google knew a fundamental change was needed. And that one decision, well, that marked the beginning of the end. And look, this wasn't some sudden shock. Google was really clear about the shutdown years in advance. They announced the phase-out way back in January 2018, stopped active development a few months later, and then gave everybody over 3 years of long-term support. The end was a long, long time coming. So here's the absolute kicker. The successor, which is now just called Angular, wasn't an upgrade. Not at all. It was a total from-the-ground-up rewrite. It was built with a different language, TypeScript, and had a completely different architecture. You couldn't just update your old AngularJS app. You had to totally rebuild it. And that, my friends, is a massive, massive job. Which, of course, brings us right back to today, into the thousands of companies that couldn't or just wouldn't take on that huge rewrite. They're the ones still living with the ghost. And as every day goes by, the risks of doing nothing are just piling up. Think about this. Just because official support ended doesn't mean the bad guys stopped looking for holes. Since that 2021 end-of-life date, several new vulnerabilities have been found. We're talking about nasty stuff like denial of service attacks that can crash your app and persistent cross-site scripting flaws. And the most important part? Google isn't fixing these anymore. And the danger goes way beyond just getting hacked. For businesses in healthcare or finance, running unsupported software can lead to huge compliance violations with regulations like HIPAA or GDPR. And then you've got the practical headaches. Your app might just suddenly break on the new version of Chrome, or a key piece of it, like jQuery, gets a security patch that's no longer compatible. It's a domino effect. This quote from Hero Devs really just says it all, doesn't it? The official safety net that open source provides, it's gone. If you're running an AngularJS app today and you don't have a specific plan, you are completely on your own. Okay, so the situation is pretty serious. That much is clear. But it's not hopeless. For any organization still on AngularJS, there are really 3 distinct paths you can take. It's time to make a choice. All right, path number 1, you can migrate. This is the best long-term play. Rewrite the whole thing in a modern framework. Path number 2, You can secure it. This means getting extended third-party support to patch those new vulnerabilities. Or, path number 3, you do nothing and just accept the risk. And as you can probably guess, that last one is a really bad idea. So let's compare the two real options here. A full migration? Yeah, it gets you onto modern, secure tech. But it is incredibly expensive, it takes a ton of time, and you need specialists. On the other hand, extended support gives you immediate security and compliance for a much lower upfront cost. It's like a bridge to safety, you know? It buys you time. So what does this extended support actually look like? Well, it's basically a service that delivers proactive security patches for any new holes that are found. It makes sure your app doesn't just break when browsers update, and it keeps you compatible with those key dependencies, which is crucial for staying secure and compliant. And the financial side of this is huge. According to the providers of these services, customers who go this route are saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why? Because it buys them time, it protects their business right now, and it lets them plan a proper migration on their own schedule and their own budget, not in a frantic panic after a data breach. So we end right back where we started. That old AngularJS application, it might seem like it still works, but as we've seen, just working isn't enough. The real questions you have to ask are, is it safe? Is it compliant? And with every single day that passes, for how much longer?